YouTube? So time for a little UCC recap here. If any of you guys live in the Midwest, I am feeling for you right now. Here in Kentucky, it's about 108 degrees and 210% humidity or something crazy like that. It is freaking hot and miserable this week. So if you're experiencing what I'm experiencing, my heart's out to you, especially if you're like me and don't have AC in your garage, you're trying to get anything done. Ugh. So UCC was very anticlimactic. A lot of you follow me on social media and you have seen my lack thereof posting about it. That's because I really didn't have anything to write home about. So you saw me getting ready for it in the previous videos. You've seen I had a little bit more work to do on the spool up. So Thursday, we actually got to the track early Thursday morning. We got a good parking spot up on the pit area on the blacktop, and we got everything set up, and I did a few spool ups to further along the, the success of the spool up program, we'll call it, and had it spooling pretty good. Didn't get much video of that. I actually forgot the GoPro in my wife's car. She didn't come up till Thursday night. But got a couple videos of some of the ones that I did just from an iPhone. And we got it spooling really good. And towards the end, it actually spooled the best it ever spooled. And I don't think I have a video of that, of course. So. Felt pretty good Thursday night, ready for Friday. My dad actually made a comment and said that the truck and I looked like we were clicking the best that we had ever clicked before. So Friday morning, I always do a spool up first thing on race day, usually an hour or two before we're gonna race, so that way everything is good and hot, nice and consistent. And spooled up fine, everything looked good, made 23 pounds of boost, nice smooth flat limiter. We go up, we take the tree, and everything was, I did not touch anything from the earlier morning spool up. I was just gonna go out and run about 100 foot out, let it make the 1-2 shift and lift. See where we're at on 60 foot, see what EGT looked like, see what data looked like. So I go up there, take the tree, I spool up, and I couldn't, the difference in boost, a lot of people think that like, oh, you should, you could know the difference between 20 pounds of boost and 23 or 23 and 25. Like the difference in those amounts of boost, we're talking a couple hundred engine RPM. There's really no way for you to hear it. I look at the boost on my race pack dash, and when it starts getting above 12, 13 PSI, I know that the turbo's rocking and rolling. So that's usually when I'll roll in, and I don't look at that anymore. I'm focused on, what I'm about to do. So I roll it in, let go of the button, and it felt horrible. Just felt like a turd. I immediately knew that it was running over top of the converter, and so what I mean by that is super, super inefficient. It was just driving over top of the efficiency, and let it make the 1-2 shift, and then immediately got out of it. It went a 167, 60 foot, it was terrible. Pull off down the other end of the track, drive it back to the pits, and looking over the data, it had made 3,520 engine RPM and 17 pounds of boost. The spool up that I had done earlier that morning was 23 pounds of boost and almost 3,200 engine RPM, like 3,180. So that's obviously an indication that there's something going on as far as your charge circuit in the converter. I had originally thought that maybe that I fat fingered something in the smart wire and I left the dump valve on. It had maybe a delay. Usually the way I run it is dump valve is on until the trans breaker is released, and then it's off, and it usually fills the converter extremely quickly. So I thought maybe that there was a half a second or a second delay in there that I didn't realize that I'd put in there or something. Didn't really find anything in there that indicated that, so thought that was pretty weird. Checked the fluid level, added a quart to it just to be safe, and pretty much got it ready to go up for the next qualifying session. So we go up to the next qualifier, and I backed the truck out of the tent, and I noticed right away that it feels like the brakes are hung up. Put it in reverse, and it's laboring the engine to back up. Put it in first gear, it does the same thing. Back up, same thing. Put it in second gear, same thing. So I think, okay, we've got a brake hanging up. My initial thought is that something in the transfer case is a problem, because we're still running the same transfer case that we fixed trackside up in Maryland. So pull it back under the tent, get it up in the air, we check all the wheels, not a brake hanging up. Pull the drive shaft out and start checking everything. In hindsight, I should have known that it was not a transfer case issue, because I was able to turn the transfer case by hand. If the bearing in the transfer case was locked up or seizing up, I shouldn't have been able to turn it. So she just did some typical vitals check, put everything back together, ran it on the stands, and my dad had noticed that when we were running it in reverse, he said that the wheels were turning slowly, and then it looked like it freed up, and it was spinning quickly in reverse. And then put it in first, and everything was spinning freely, and it looked really normal. Took it off the jacks, and you could move it by hand again. Before it was you could move it by hand, but it was taking every bit of effort that I had to pull on the truck, and usually I could push it around decently easily. So got that done, and we think, okay, we're in business. Put it in gear and it's moving again. So we back out, we go up, and by this time it's like the last qualifier of that night. So we go back up there for that qualifier, and as I'm driving up to the pits, I feel something different now. I feel like it's almost like it's got a really loose stall, or the transmission is slipping. So I make the decision to just put it back in the pits and pretty much call it quits, because at this time I'm thinking that the transfer case has a problem. I'm thinking that the sprag is broke in the transmission, possibly from when the transfer case got hurt up at World Cup, because I did not take the transmission out of the truck afterwards. But we went to the track after World Cup, and we went 3 passes, and I went personal best 60 foot and 330 on those runs. So I didn't have any reason in my mind to take the trans out, but at this point in time I'm thinking, okay, maybe the sprag is broke. So pretty much that ended our weekend. We hung out the rest of the weekend. We got to talk to a lot of people, sold some shirts. So it was all in all, that is always good when I get to intermingle with all of you guys and stuff like that. Sucks to not be racing. It sucks that there was people that showed up to watch the truck and didn't get to see it, but unfortunately that is part of racing. We all go through it. So Sunday morning we go to load up, and I put the truck in gear, and it would barely move. It felt like it had just an extremely loose stall. And at this time, I'm still not 100% sure what's going on. And so I said, okay, whatever. We just moved the trailer, winched it up into the trailer, but it winched in the trailer fine. So the whole way home, I'm driving, I'm thinking, man, it can't be a transfer case bearing, because if it was a seized up bearing, it wouldn't be able to just winch right in the trailer. It wouldn't roll freely. So we get home, I unload the truck that night, and it's got nothing. All gears are essentially neutral. Rev it up 2300 engine RPM, which sounds like 4,000 in neutral, and it's not doing anything. So at this point, I'm 100% certain that the sprag in the case is broke. We get the transmission pulled out of it. I take it to the shop, I pull it all apart, and I'm not finding that obvious problem like I was hoping to find. The sprag's not broke. Everything looks pretty good in the transmission. go over everything with a fine-tooth comb and not finding the problem. I'm not really seeing as far as what's causing this thing to basically be in neutral. When I take the gear set apart, I noticed that I'm having a hard time actually getting the gear set apart. We have that 210/139 custom ratio gear set in this, and so it's a little bit different than a stock gear set. Everything's a little bit tighter and machined a little fit better. And I'm noticing there's a couple little chunks of aluminum that are hung up inside there that are fighting me. So I get that freed up, and those little pieces of aluminum came from the overdrive piston support, which if any of you guys are familiar with 4748 REs, that's what gets lube from the cooler first. And I was trying a lube mod to that overdrive piston support, and the lube mod that I was trying actually hurt more than it helped, and it actually starved it for oil a little bit. And so it was basically taking what I did and churning it up into little aluminum pieces. And so I think what happened as far as the hung up goes, because the transfer case spun freely, when I pulled the transfer case out, you could turn it over by hand, no problem. Like, there's no possible way the transfer case was the issue. I think what happened was those little chunks of aluminum got hung up in the gear set, and it was essentially trying to bind it. So it was basically mechanically locking it in gear, even though the engine's off and it's in neutral. So that's why it was hard for me to roll it, because it was acting like it was still in gear. But that didn't explain my neutral deal. So I started looking at the valve body, and I noticed right away when I started looking, the dump valve was stuck out. So basically the dump valve was stuck on, and with this new dump valve design that Gearing came out with, it works extremely well. And evidently it works so well that it will drain all of the fluid pressure out of your converter if you give it enough time, and you basically leave it mechanically stuck out like that. And essentially it made the stall extremely loose to where it was basically neutral. And the reason that that dump valve got stuck out was because of that lube mod that I was trying, with it basically taking lube away, and it was kind of churning up that piston support. It was making fine little chunks of aluminum, and one of those little chunks found its way into the passage of the dump valve and stuck it open. So unfortunately, something that we probably could have easily fixed trackside ruined our weekend. That was not even something that was in my mind. I was certain that either the sprag was broke or we had tore up the transfer case again or something crazy, but all it was an experimental lube mod gone bad. But that's why I experiment with my personal stuff, and I don't experiment with customer stuff, just because of reasons like that. And like the Grinch would say, that's what these tests are for. So I've got the transmission all back together, put it in a nice bare case here, did a couple little things, little upgrades to it that hadn't been done last time, because it's been a while since transmission's been out of this. We're always constantly learning some tricks and stuff with these things, so this thing is current as current is right now. So next step will be to get the transmission back in the truck and go to a local test event and try to get this thing making some laps again, doing what we were hoping that we could have done at UCC. And we're definitely going to bring you guys along for the ride for all of that. So like always, guys, I appreciate you watching the videos. Sorry this isn't a better video than what it was, but that's part of racing. Stupid things happen, and sometimes a tiny little piece of aluminum ends your weekend. So I have UCC shirts left over. They're this shirt that I'm wearing here, they're Logan built shirts, but they're ones that I had made for UCC. We actually sold a ton of them, and I don't have them on the website yet because I wanted UCC spectators to get first dibs, and then I wanted the YouTube family here to get second dibs on them. So I'll throw up some pictures of the shirts in the end of this video, and shoot me an email at info@getloganbuilt.com. And let me know what size and color you want, and we'll see what we are. We're pretty limited on availability, but shoot me an email and we'll get you guys some shirts coming. And like always, I appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.